Hi guys, sorry I'm a bit late this morning. I've lost Jeff because, in fact, I'm not meant to be here. Jeff's meant to be here, but we haven't got Jeff today because his mum has been taken sick. So he's travelled, I'm not sure where in Australia, but to a part of Australia to be with her. Good morning, Dennis. So it's just you and I this morning so far. I don't think anybody else is due to pop in. I did contact some people, but I can't. I didn't hear back from them. We can, in fact, give me two shakes here. Sorry, I didn't hear back from them. Now we are obviously looking at a FTSE 100, which is just rampant. Good morning, Swee. Sino, how you doing? Really, we should be buying into this. You know, there's no two ways about this. This is not coming back. But can we justify it at these particular price points? And I'm guessing we probably can't. So it's not going to be an easy trade. Interesting, really. On Friday, we had a fairly decent drift to the downside on very light volume, but started to pick up towards the end of the day. And you can see the reaction of the market. So if I can buy into this, I probably will. It could come. Let's see how far it needs to come back before we can justify it. I'm just going to get everything set up here. Yeah, this is going to be a hot market today. It's just a question of how far it needs to come back. So if it probably comes back 66, what will that give us? 38. We might be able to get into that one. Just not a very good setup. I think that's the issue here. We are unfortunately at risk of missing it if we wait for the setup. But by the same token, there will be another market on another day. So maybe we need to do that. I'm not sure. Whoops. Get rid of that. So I'm just setting up my lists here. Decent move overnight in China. The only thing that might hold this this market back is the fact that we got data points later on. So I think what I'll be doing is, though wanting to buy in, not diving in. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. Right. Now, let's just have a look at this and see where we're going to buy into this. There's a price point there. I suppose we could start phasing in. There's the stop down there. So wherever we enter, that would be the best point, but it's got to come down 20 pips straight away. Now the question really comes in, so I'm thinking aloud here. How high is it likely to go? Well, it could be 100 pips. I think I'm going to wait. You know, it's going to be one of those that I know that there's going to be a potentially a missed opportunity to the upside initially, but it will settle down. And just in the case of that, I wouldn't mind this area here. If it comes back to that area there, then I will buy into it. You know, quite keenly, no problem. But anywhere else is going to prove to be quite difficult. So as it comes back on this in this emotive move, it's not going to be so easy to figure out exactly where it is. Let me just see if scaling in is an option here. 30. Yeah, scaling is an option. Let's just see this. Yeah, I can't really justify it. I think there was a setup just before we came live on air. If it comes back down to this area, I'll take it. If not, I'm going to have to let it go. Really like the trade. Really like the potential upside, but it's just taken off a bit too keenly for me. So I'm going to have to wait just a little while and see if it can come back. Now let's just have a quick look around the ground here and just check out. Oh gosh, it's going to be difficult to ignore this one, you know. It's going to be tough to ignore it. Just a little bit back would be good. It's very keen this morning, guys. Very, very keen. Maybe 20 pips. If it cuts back 20 pips, then I will enter this. Let me just write these up. So I'm not going to enter before, and I think it's probably not going to get back to my price point, but 62.55 is the area that I'd like to buy in if I can, and I will accept that. So it's a FTSE long. FTSE long, and it's going to be actually, let me write that in capital so it's easier to see. $62.55. Stops are going to be down here. And if we get in, we can talk about 62.25 would probably be just about enough. But let's go 62.20 on our stop. So there's the stop loss down there. I think because I'm in on my own, I've got all this kind of thing, all the information coming at me. I don't think I'm going to be able to think straight enough to enter this any higher than this point. I think it's going up.
I would never leave you on your own.
Oh, hello, Chloe. How you doing? You're in. Oh, good on you, Chloe. Good on you. Out of the bag. You pulled that out of the bag.
I managed to drag myself out of bed.
Oh, good on you, Chloe. Good on you. Oh, thank Monday for Chloe. All right. Well, we're not in bad shape then. Orlando, I don't. Do you know what? I'm a bit confused because Jeff organised the people because I'm not meant to be in this week. I don't know if you're aware of that, Chloe, but it's not meant to be me this week. So I think Jeff organised people to come in, but and he did say Orlando. I'm not sure if I'm meant to send him a message or not. I'm a bit caught on the hop, to be honest, this morning. But thank God you're in anyway. So at least we have the two of us in. And I suppose if Orlando turns up, if you want to go back to bed, I suppose you can. But it'd be great if you.
Oh yeah, straight back to bed.
So, well, we've got a risk on day, Chloe, and I really want to go long on this FTSE, but I can't justify a takeoff so far this morning. So I'm just waiting for it to just cut back a bit and give me a half decent entry if I can get it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've stayed abreast with anything. God, actually, really was a straight. I mean, I'm slightly concerned. It's just going to go. You know, it's not gone just yet, but I'm slightly concerned that the opportunity is probably passed. And I suppose if that's the case, then that's the case. Just have to accept it. But I don't know if you've been keeping abreast of the news and whatever else there is this morning, but it seems pretty bullish out there, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, I guess maybe in the UK we had that news about the arts sector support, didn't we?
So yes, we did. Yeah.
Perhaps that has made people feel a bit happier for a few minutes.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I was wondering which stocks actually, which FTSE 100 stocks would benefit from that, and you're probably going down to the 350 or some of the LSE stocks to figure out the best ones to trade on that particular news. But it is good news. I don't think they could have done anything else. I mean, you're in that industry as well with live events, and you know as well as I do that the arts really are a net contributor to the treasury.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
they can't really discard that. So is there anything you're looking at, Chloe? Is there anything that you're trading, or have you literally not really had the chance to have a look at any charts this morning
Do you
so
know
far?
what? I literally have dragged myself out of bed just now, but I'm a little bit frustrated, I have to say, a bit like you, Ash, because the things that I've been looking at have been mainly Aussie and Kiwi pairs,
Well, yeah, yeah,
and I'm fully aware that they do tend to move for what for us would be the end of the night or overnight.
yes,
Um, and what I always used to do was I always used to stay up, wait for the daily bars to close, do my end of day trading, and then stay up a bit longer normally, wait for that daily pivot to settle itself out and see if there was going to be a move on these Aussie and Kiwi pairs. But of course, with my slightly greater need for sleep these days, I
yeah,
haven't been doing that. And this morning's one of those mornings where I just think, oh God, I wish I'd stayed up last night. Because
yeah. Well,
everything's moved without me. And I just have to sit here and think, well, that's life.
yeah,
Sometimes we miss opportunities and there'll be another opportunity around the corner. But it is frustrating when it happens on a Monday morning and you think, oh, I could have been 5% up this morning and
yeah,
had the rest of the week off.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I know what you mean. And particularly if you've kind of pinpointed that particular time of day as a good trading opportunity. I was looking last night actually at some of the potential releases in Australia. I mean, this is a crazy number. The ANZ job advertisements month on month up 42% from -3. I mean, it's just a huge and astonishing jump. I mean, I know we had the jump in the opposite direction in May, but that kind of is almost suggesting the market has bounced back. If it's cancelled it out because it's pretty even, it's suggesting that the Australian work or certainly the job opportunities have managed to kind of level out again, which I think is kind of odd. I do find this period really strange. The need to get the economy back up and running means that we are opening things probably a little earlier than we can handle health-wise. But by the same token, if it's opening up, then obviously jobs are going to need to be filled. So it certainly looks like the Australian economy and therefore the Aussie as a currency should be fairly solid. I would have thought for the rest of the day. I haven't had a look at the Aussie pairs.
yeah, I mean, yes, they should, but at the same by the same token, um, with the way I trade, I really like to get in as close to the beginning of the move as I can.
Yeah, me too.
And if I'm trading on a lower time frame, it's already lower probability chance of success
Yeah,
on my strategy versus trading on, the 4 hourly or the daily or even the hourly. Um, and then factor into that the fact that really, I kind of feel like if I were to jump into any trades now this morning, I would be trading a little bit kind of not quite in the right mindset. I would be chasing the market. So
yeah.
I've just got to be a little bit careful about that and perhaps wait for things to come back a bit more than they have so far before I start thinking about getting in.
Oh, do you know what? I think that's such a good point, and I know exactly what you mean about that. I'm really keen to trade the FTSE here, and in some respects, I've got quite a strong belief that it's going higher from this particular price point. So I've got the mindset that a higher price is a higher price, no matter where which part of the move you get in at. But exactly what you're saying. It's just really bad practice. And when do you sort of when do you blur your lines on that particular approach, with that kind of particular approach. You believe the market's going higher, and it doesn't really matter about setup, which in this kind of scenario, I don't think it will. I think the market's going to go higher today, and I think we find
Yeah.
ourselves up at this point minimum, which is 100. No, it's not. It's about 60 pips. So my thought is that I should just get in, but what you're saying is the reason that I'm not getting in, because I want to get in on the start of it, and I am trading on shorter term time frames, which means that the likelihood is that I'm going to get the best possible price here is unlikely, even though it will be probably a good enough price. But I'm going to potentially have to sit through some downside, and then be thinking, well, if I'd waited a bit longer, then I could have got a slightly better price than I've got now. But yeah, it's always a tricky one, isn't it? Do you kind of go with the general momentum, the general price point that it's at, and with a pretty strong opinion that it's going higher from where you're at, even though you've missed your entry, or do you wait for those entries and try and get the right price point with the risk of missing the move? Because that's what you're giving up, isn't it? Every time that you're waiting, you're potentially giving something else up. And every time that you're diving in, you're potentially giving something else up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is frustrating. But for me personally, I have done my fair share of chasing markets and chasing moves,
Yeah,
and it doesn't work for me psychologically. And I've got
yeah,
to be a bit careful about that, because 10 years ago, when I first started trading, I got all the technicals pretty quickly, and it was the psychology that took me quite a while to get myself into the right right headspace, the right zone, to actually be able to become consistent at trading. And
yeah,
so if I mess around with that now, it can be a bit of a slippery slope that I'm not really willing to go back to. So um,
yeah,
frustrating. And I did wake up this morning and think, oh dear, wish I wasn't asleep at that time. But
yeah.
I was, and I enjoy my sleep. So there
Yeah,
you go.
well, rightly so. So we'll have a look at some of these currencies. What everybody seems to be saying about what a great job you did on your analysis yesterday.
Oh, thank
And
you very much,
Helen's in
guys.
some of those trades today. What did I miss
Oh,
yesterday, Chloe?
fantastic. Well, everything that I missed, basically.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Everything
so
I
you.
pointed out yesterday has gone overnight, and I'm not in any of it.
Oh,
I am in 3 trades, but they were trades that I was already in from last week. I haven't got into anything fresh this week, which um I am a little bit disappointed about. But yeah, I mean, I can grab the screen if you want, Ash,
yeah. Let's have a look. Yeah.
and have a quick look. Let me see. Do you know what? I don't find this Zoom platform as intuitive. I guess it's because we've been on GoToWebinar for so long. It's taking me a while to get used to the.
Yeah, because I mean, Jeff and I obviously use it every day, and I prefer
Yeah,
it now.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure I'll get used to it. All right. So, oh, that FTSE does look good, doesn't it? That
Oh,
looks
yeah,
like
it's
a
keen,
quick
and it's
way.
going. The
Yeah,
question is, has it gone? And that's the hope that I'm holding on to. Can it just come back a little bit for me and give me a proper, or at least half a setup, which I haven't had yet. Explosive moves to the upside like that. It's just difficult to jump on.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
can tell you, under the hood, we got 96% of stocks in positive territory. So it just tells you all you
Wow.
need to know about the fact that
Yeah,
this market probably isn't coming back.
yeah, yeah. What a shame. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Ooh,
so yeah, this was a trade from last week. This was on Trader Talk Radio. I think the evening Trader Talk Radio show sometime last week. That was an hourly setup, in fact, which I will just show you. So that was just this low test bar here from the weekly pivot. So I'm just going to ride that out. I don't, in all honesty, don't have any particular intentions of closing or scaling out that trade until it gets to at least a monthly resistance level up here. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. But what I was pointing out yesterday was that I was still and am still bullish on the Aussie and Kiwi pairs pretty much. I was looking at Aussie CAD, which was, if I just scrunch that up a little bit, we can see a bit better. We've got this kind of consolidation where pretty much for the whole month last month, price was held up at this horizontal level, and it does look now like price is breaking out from that. It's not through the highest point yet, but in terms of the bullish price action here pushing up, in terms of the lows still getting higher, I'm pretty I would be pretty confident and pretty happy if I were to be able to. I'm just going to have to get rid of that. It's doing my head in. Pretty confident that I would want to be in a long trade here. So, it's just going to be a case of waiting for it to come back on whichever time frame I can. And ideally, I'd like it to come back to a horizontal level. Now, that's where I've put my horizontal level, and as I was saying, it's a bit more of a kind of band or zone than specific price point there. But if I were to get a retest of that level, or even if I were to get a retest of one of these levels slightly higher up here on any time frame, then I would be looking for a long entry. So yeah, I'm bullish on Aussie CAD. Let me just put my market scanner back on. I just find it a lot easier. Aussie Swiss also. Now this one has been in a consolidation pattern. So again, just looking at the daily time frame, we can see here lower highs and higher lows. It's a little bit like a symmetrical triangle. It's not perfect. Whatever you want to call these chart patterns, what we've got here is, if I just draw the trend line just from there, what we've got is now a break to the upside of that triangle pattern. It attempted at the end of last week and kind of came back to close within, but it really has now broken out. So looking at that,
pivot body there, Chloe?
The monthly pivot.
Yeah.
Well, the monthly pivot is what I like about it, actually, because price has now come above the monthly pivot. So we're above the level of resistance with this downwards trend line here from the consolidation pattern. And what I like about it is, we've all experienced probably, or at least heard of, a false break from resistance, false break from consolidation, false break from range, whatever. We get them all the time, or some people call them fake outs or whatever. What I like about this one is that on this day here, we actually did get a breakout. It didn't close above, it came back within. So that for me was my kind of my false break. But since then, we've stayed steadily outside this consolidation zone. The monthly pivot moved up at the beginning of the month, and we're now pushing up. We've continued to make higher highs with these daily bars here, and we're pushing up again past the monthly pivot. So in terms of what this gives me for a potential entry, I've got to go down to the lower time frames. I can't trade this on the daily now. But I would be waiting for a retest of that monthly pivot. And in fact, we actually had it early this morning with this bullish, almost bullish engulfing bar here. It's not quite, but it's definitely a very bullish bar there on the 4-hourly time frame, where we can clearly see prices come outside of this consolidation pattern, outside of the symmetrical triangle, if you like. It's come back, it's retested that trend line here. It's then come up above the monthly pivot, retested down here and continued back above the monthly pivot. So, it's just for me going to be a case of drilling down the time frames, making sure I still have good cyclicity. I still want to see higher lows and higher highs. If I get another retest of the monthly pivot, then that'll be fine. I'll look out for an opportunity there perhaps. Otherwise, you know, other options would be looking out for a retest of this previous high just here, which price is coming down to. It doesn't look like I'll get a setup on that time frame, but you know, maybe even the 15-minute time frame looks pretty bullish, retesting this level. I've just got to wait for my bullish candle, and then you know, maybe there'll be an entry there. So
how if that was to close, I mean, could the same thing potentially happen where it's rejected the monthly pivot on a day on day basis? Would it still be an option to wait for a close for the day above the monthly pivot and then look for the entry, or is it one of those cases that you think, you know what, it's going to close above the monthly pivot today, so I don't need to wait?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to close above the monthly pivot today. So what I would do is drill down to a time frame where I do find a decent entry on my strategy as either a bounce from the monthly pivot or a bounce from a level. I'd like an area of confluence ideally. But
It's good here though, isn't it? I just looked at this and I just thought this is a good price point. You've got that horizontal level. There's a little trend line, you know, from the low on the, is it the 4th of July? Yeah, that one there. Looks like it's, and then you got the DR1 and looks like a
yeah,
moving average there. I just looked at it and thought actually a turnaround here would be pretty good. I don't particularly love that that chart pattern that we've currently got with those 4 bars, but I like the price.
yeah, the price is good. And yeah, as you say, I've got to wait for the right bar to get in
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
I'm not
Would
quite
this be
as,
an option at this price or not? Not if you got the right bar?
if I got the right bar, yeah, it definitely
Yeah,
wouldn't be this bar we're on. I'd have to wait for this bar to close, and
yeah,
then I'd have to wait for a new bar to form and see what direction that gave me.
yeah,
And ideally, I would want this bar to close, you know, around here or slightly above. I don't want it really to come back down much further. If I'm going to trade on this time frame, I really want to see a bounce from this level. I don't want to see price kind of dipping in and out of the level. So yeah, so in answer to your question about whether I mind whether the daily bar closes above the monthly pivot today or not, I don't really mind, no, if I'm trading on a lower time frame,
yeah,
because if I'm trading on a lower time frame, what I want is to catch the beginning of this move. And this is what I was saying earlier on with, let's look at Aussie dollar, for example. That's gone. You know, that went in what for us is I guess that's probably around 10, just after 10 p.m., where the daily move goes. So that's gone, and I'm disappointed that I've missed the beginning of the move. That's not coming back to retest the daily pivot or anything as far as I'm concerned. And if it does come back to test the daily pivot, it's probably too big of a retracement for me to want to get in. Whereas this one here hasn't gone yet. In terms of the daily, it hasn't actually moved very far. So there is the opportunity for me to potentially get into this early. If I get in early at reduced risk, maybe even just 0.25% risk or something, and I was too early, then I've got the opportunity to wait, see if the daily bar closes above the monthly pivot, and see if there's a new opportunity either tonight or tomorrow. But just for the sake of a 0.25% risk trade, if it's not gonna wait for the me to decide whether the daily bar is good enough or not, then I want to be in at least at a 0.25%, and then that gives me it gets me into the trade, and it also puts me in a good frame of mind. It puts my psychology in the right place to then continue scaling into the trade on the way up. And that's what I don't like about things like Aussie dollar. I mean, yes, I am already in this Aussie dollar on the daily time frame anyway, but what I would have wanted would have been to get in down here at the beginning of the move, and then if there's another setup later on, I'm happy to scale in because I'm covered by what I've already done in the early part of the move. Whereas just to get in up here on a retracement, I'm kind of thinking, well, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to either go or come back on me. And not really so interested in 50-50 chances, to be honest, with my
Yeah, yeah,
trading.
I'm with you.
So I do really like to base my trading, if I can, on price patterns as well as on trend. I don't really want to just jump into this just because it's trending. I want to see a reason. You know, as you mentioned, a price point or a chart pattern or a structure that I want to use to base my trading decision on.
Yeah. Well, Alan's
Um,
saying the stocks are going to the moon, and I think you're right, Alan, and I'm in the same situation with, as Chloe. You know, I'm a bit concerned about missing this move. The one thing is though, we got ISM numbers later on, and even if we don't get this particular price point, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the US market actually provide a US Open provide a better opportunity. Um, it's always a question: do people buy into the number? Do they wait for the number, or do they sell into the number? At this stage, it looks like they're buying into the number, which may well, cause a bit of a turnaround after that number. Which, if the number's not too bad, and it's not perceived in the end as being too bad, then maybe that's the point that we get our move back to the downside to be able to get into some of these. So that's the one thing I'm holding on to right now. Um, jumping in is just going to be difficult, but there's nothing suggesting this market is coming back at this particular stage. Not one thing.
yeah, but
Holding pretty well.
that's a really good point, Ash, isn't it? That we do tend to get a good 2 opportunities per day.
I
Whereas
think
of
so.
course you
Yeah.
do get the US Open, and you know it's all a fresh start almost,
Yes.
and
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
kind of
Yeah.
prepare
I mean,
yourself for that. And
the three market opens do tend to almost react like 3 separate days. You know, when you get the Asian market opening up, that's an opportunity. When you get the European market opening up, it's another one, and then the US. And it was one of the things that I had to learn as I went. Just because the Asian session's going in a direction, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get any follow through. What's pushing the FTSE up, Sino? Well, there's a lot of. I mean, I was going to say that you're not going to get any follow through. Sometimes you do. So the Asian market has been pretty bullish, really. You know, it's fairly pleased with the way that the economy is starting to pick up. And it's always difficult because it's a bit like market is going down. Let's invite people that are bearish. Market is going up. Let's invite people that are bullish, and that's what they do on Bloomberg. So you could certainly continue to make the case for downside. And part of my issue with the FTSE is we are in a pretty wide range. And the wide range means that you can get these sweeping moves, think the market is going to the moon, and actually it's just going to the top end of the range, and then it turns around and comes back again. So I would like to take advantage of something here, but I'm not going to get caught out in thinking all of a sudden the situation that we've got with a global pandemic and the economies around the world is finished, and we've got the green light to go. We've got earnings season next week, and I haven't heard a lot to suggest that earnings season is going to be that positive. So I wouldn't be that surprised to see us, have a fairly bullish week, and then pause and even possibly come right back into the lower end of the range again by the time the earnings season is done. I mean, it's as I would say, it's not out of the woods yet. I bought some shares in EasyJet last week, as you guys know. We were on the show doing the EasyJet analysis, and they've started to take off today. And one thing I do like about EasyJet is the fact that it's not exposed to the likes of the American situation. However, in saying that, there was a bit of a spike in Spain over the weekend. And if we continue to see anything like that, some of these European cases start to pick up again, then you can forget some of the domestic stocks in the UK doing well again. So I'm not going to get too caught up in it going and going and going. But right now it looks pretty good. As for Chloe's analysis on the Aussie and Kiwi pairs, I'm in complete agreement. I haven't seen anything to suggest that we should be doing anything but buying those particular currencies. You know, the numbers just seem solid. Without being hugely stellar, but they just seem brilliant in comparison to some of these other ones. The pound, I you know, surprised that anybody would want to buy the pound right now, but that's holding pat against the dollar at least. Amelia's asking if you've got any. I am meant to be on holiday, Helen, but Jeff had a bit of bad news about his mum over the weekend, so he's gone to spend some time with her. So we might be flipping weeks. Emmanuel's got any thoughts on the Kiwi CAD on the daily wave rider, Chloe?
Let me just get the daily wave rider.
Oh, we were talking about the Sing last week as well. Somebody entered the dollar Sing, and it was a really good setup. But you know what was forgotten, and I just not aware of this stuff, is that you guys have got elections, not you guys, but you know, the people in the room that are in Singapore. There are elections this Friday, aren't they? And that's maybe enough to kind of put that one on hold a bit. I haven't looked at that since, but that's going to make that a tricky
thing this week.
It's a difficult currency in some respects, this thing, because it's pegged in a really odd. In fact, it's pegged, but they don't disclose. Actually, that has worked out, the dollar Sing. It's just starting to ease down now. Just easing down to the downside now, and it looks like we might have had a bit of a breakout. I mean, the setup was really good last week. I can't remember who spotted it, but it was a fantastic setup last week on the daily wave rider on this dollar Sing, and it looks like it is actually picking up some pace. Dollar is pretty beaten up at the minute. I tried to trade the euro dollar short on Friday, and I got cut up twice, very frustratingly, and it's actually going in the opposite direction. And I think that's more to do with the dollar than anything else. Is the Sing a risk on, a risk off? It's a difficult one, Sino, because the Sing is pegged to a basket of other currencies, but they don't disclose the weighting. So you don't, you know, it's one of the currencies that isn't. They don't tell you what the weighting is per currency. And when they are, you know, some of the currencies do disclose how they're pegged. You know, certain things are just pegged to one currency, but others, like the yuan and the Sing, they are pegged to a basket of currencies. And the yuan does tell you the weighting, but the Sing doesn't. And I don't know if they change as well. They change the weighting, which, you know, is a bit of an advantage. They've almost got this floating /fixed hybrid going on, which, as I say, I don't know whether that's the best way to do it or not, but it does mean the Sing opportunities are a little bit trickier to really understand, I think, in some respects.
Ash, can you repeat the question? Was it Kiwi CAD?
Yeah.
On
Kiwi CAD.
I
will do, Helen. Thank you for that. Yes, Kiwi CAD on the daily wave rider. You got it.
All right. So if the question is there an entry, then from what I can see, no, there isn't. I don't know whether you're talking about a trade that you maybe got into last week, or that you want an update on, or
yeah. What's the clarity on that one, buddy? For what you're after. I do see that you've got the relevant pivot. I won't go into the detail of it, just in case there are people in the room that haven't done the course. But the relevant pivot that you need, I do see that has stepped, but you don't have a bar, and you don't have a bar entry, and I'm not sure what you would tested either. I haven't got the other price points on there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, definitely in terms of direction, Kiwi CAD, you know, as I've been saying, I'm bullish on the Kiwi pairs. Kiwi CAD is one of them. It just broke out. So I was looking at Aussie CAD earlier, which was just breaking out of the resistance. Kiwi CAD has this similar level of resistance here. It broke out last week, but it's still very much similar price action in that we had a strong level of resistance for the whole month, and it broke out last week. There was a setup, I would say, last week, which is going pretty well so far. But in terms of a new setup, you've got to look at cyclicity. The cyclicity is key. So really, for me, on a daily time frame, I would probably be waiting for the same thing as I'm waiting for on the Aussie CAD, a retest of this level. That's my strong level. It took a month to break out of it. If I were to get a retest of that level, I'd definitely be looking for a long opportunity. But it's a way off. I mean, it's at least a couple of days off, isn't it, for a retest of that? So yeah, it would be on my watch list for trading long, but on the daily time frame, I've got a couple of days to wait before I get the right setup. I would have thought.
Okay, brilliant. Kiwi yen as well is another question from Emmanuel. Does that make sense, Emmanuel? I think Emmanuel has only just done the course, so there may be a bit of confusion still for you. I don't know if that's the case, and if it is, then you may be missing the bar. So you have to sort of like think about all the different things that need to line up. You may well be missing the, as Chloe says about the cycle. The cycle needs to be a pullback, and you're trying to enter the pullback. You haven't got that. You'd be entering actually at the upper end of that cycle. So you're trying to wait for the lower end of the cycle for one, and then a master candle to enter on.
Yeah, so let me just
Missed the entry. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, so
that,
maybe that's what it was.
So yeah, what I would be waiting for would be price to come back down to this level here, and then a master candle, and then I'd be looking for price to take off again. That is what I would be waiting for on that one. And then what was the other one? Kiwi yen.
Yes.
So yeah, again on Kiwi yen, we don't
just
have
on that actually. Just on that, Emmanuel just said he missed the entry, and I think that if you're talking about the bar 3 back, Emmanuel, then you're absolutely right, and that's really good that if you're spotting that, it's really good because you're correct on the bar that would have been entered on. Is that the Kiwi CAD you got there still?
Yeah, that's Kiwi CAD on there.
Oh, that's Kiwi CAD. Yeah. 4 bar. What is it? That one there.
1, 2,
yeah.
3. Yeah.
4 back. It's not quite an engulfing, but it's good enough, isn't it? I mean, it's close enough to sort of the tail doesn't come quite below bar 5 back, but that is a great entry there, mate. So if you've picked that up, that's really good. It's really positive. So
yeah, definitely.
You know, you're going in the right direction.
And then Kiwi yen is Kiwi yen is a tricky one because the indicators don't agree anymore.
No,
we've got one thing saying go long and one thing saying go short, and when we get that, we've just got to ignore it and move on if our indicators don't agree. So even though I've said I'm bullish on the Kiwi pairs and I'm trading long, I'm basing that on a slightly different strategy. So for the daily wave rider strategy, we're not really there in terms of a setup on Kiwi yen, and haven't really been for some time, to be honest with you. From what I can see just here, we've got indicators not agreeing and direction not agreeing and the candles not agreeing. So I'm bullish. I'm going to be looking for long opportunities, but in terms of daily wave rider, there isn't a setup here, unfortunately. But I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps later on in the week, these indicators do come into alignment. So it's worth keep checking back every day just to see if those colors change and we do get something. And then possibly around the same time that Kiwi CAD comes back down to retest this level, we might also see a retest of maybe a pivot or a level or something on Kiwi yen as well. Could also see it on Kiwi dollar. You know, all of these pairs that are looking bullish on a daily time frame, we just have to be patient, wait for the retest, wait for cyclicity, wait for the beginning of the next cycle, and then see if we can find a way into the market.
And also, I think, you know, we've certainly got a risk on day today, and when Oh, thank you, Emmanuel. Do you know what, mate? Yeah, I mean, it is just Emmanuel's saying, if you haven't got the chat open, Chloe, he's just saying that he's just taken a little while to get a handle on the daily wave rider. So, and it is just practice. Just keep doing it. I think you are getting it. You post enough questions and comments in here. I remember an Aussie dollar trade that you suggested a month or so ago. You post enough questions and comments in here to suggest that you are getting it, and it's just a case of making sure that you get your head right. You know, we're not looking to dive in. We're looking to get the setup absolutely right. You know, trade it cold, trade it. You know, as I think I said on the course, we can't risk being human when we trade. You know, we've got to get that element out of our psyche. Not easy when you sort of when you see things going in the direction that you presumed it would go, and you've missed the entry. But it is risk off today. Sorry, it's risk on today. So inevitably the Kiwi's going to go, and the yen's going to go. Kiwi CAD's a bit of a weird one because they're both commodity currencies. So it's not so easy to kind of figure out what is driving one against the other there. But you know, you certainly want to check out the oil market when you look at the CAD. But when it comes down to Kiwi yen, it's slightly more binary because the yen is your risk off currency, and the Kiwi would be a risk on. Because it's to do with global growth. You know, that they are a commodity-based currency when that's to do with global growth. So it is a classic, if you like. The Aussie yen, that they always say is a good proxy for the stock market, because Aussie is very much risk on and the yen is very much risk off. So easier, in my opinion, to look for the Kiwi yen rather than the Kiwi CAD. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Chloe. I know it's relative, but
Absolutely. In fact, I really enjoy trading all crosses with the yen pairs. I find they, in terms of trend trading, they do tend to move quite nice and smoothly. Whereas
yeah,
the CAD crosses I've always found to be a little bit more difficult. The trends, for the most part, I found don't tend to go on as long as some of the other pairs.
yeah,
As you
I'd agree.
both being commodity driven, it's yeah, they can chop around a bit more, I find. And you can
Yeah,
see that in the chart here. You can see all of this consolidation for the whole of last month, same as Aussie CAD. That is evidence really of what I'm talking about. It doesn't, you know, when it goes, but I'm never 100% sure how far it's going to go or how long it's going to go on for, because you do tend to get a lot of this very rangy price action as well. You get a nice bit of trend, and then you get some chop and range, and then a nice bit of trend, and then a bunch of chop and range.
yeah. Yeah, oh, somebody's just saying about I will talk about stop loss hunting in a moment. There is a simple way to get around stop loss hunting, and I'll show you that in a second. It's really what I always do, and I always tell you guys about. But I'll show you that in a second. But just getting onto some of these other ones here as well. Chloe, your view on the dollar yen, and this one makes me laugh because Jeff has had an absolute beast of a time trying to trade this one recently. And Helen's saying the Swissy yen scares her a bit, and I get that as well. You know, both risk off and you know, not easy to trade with each other, and not always advisable. Because remember, what we need as traders, and this really should be a sentence that you put. In fact, a word, not a sentence. Sorry, a word that you put above your system when you're trading, or at least put it well and truly at the front of your head. You need volatility. If you're going to make money, you're going to we need the market to move. So if you're trading, and this is why I don't particularly like things like Kiwi CAD as a pair, or the Swissy yen as a pair, because the volatility is likely to be muted, because they kind of both sit in a similar room, in a similar area, so it makes it a lot more tricky. I think all the bots are trading against me. No, they're not trading against you. Kellen, because they're bots. But I know what you mean. Sometimes it's very frustrating. But you know, that I'll show you a way around that in a moment. That well, firstly, let's just get to your opinion, Chloe, on the dollar yen and
On dollar yen.
yeah.
Yeah, do you know, I have I wouldn't say given up on dollar yen, but there was a period of time a month or so ago where I was absolutely determined that I knew where that was going.
Yeah,
And clearly I didn't. So
yeah.
at the moment, the way I see dollar yen, sorry, I've got to get my normal template back on. I
I
can't
mean,
see
does that
that.
mean really we shouldn't be looking at the dollar yen? If because Jeff's had a nightmare with this as well, and I've got to say, I can't work out where you would put your money if you're trying to protect yourself. Would you go to? I suppose you wouldn't go to the dollar if you're in a risk off yen, no problem. Risk on. Is there any point in trading the dollar versus the yen? Surely we should be looking at the Aussie or the Kiwi.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my kind of take on it, Ash. And the reason I've been trading the Aussie and the Kiwi lately is because I look at the chart and it's clear to me which direction it's going, and it's clear to me where my entries are going to be and where my stop losses are going to be. And that is the most important thing. Sometimes my target is a little bit, I'll set a target and then I think, no, I want it to go a bit further or whatever. I'm more flexible with that. But as long as I know which direction to trade in, where my entry is and where my stop loss is, then I'm golden. Whereas with dollar yen, I look at this chart and I see a level down here that we failed to get through, and that was the level I wanted price to get through. When I was trading dollar yen, it was I was trading it over here, so I traded it down here, and then it turned around. So it wasn't a losing trade. I got money out of it, but it then turned around, retraced further than I hoped. It definitely wasn't a continuation of the trend. Then it ranged for yet another almost month. Then it broke up to the upside, which there was a range here and I was expecting a breakout, but I didn't have my mindset fixed for dollar yen long. I had my mindset fixed for dollar yen short, so I didn't get that move. It's come back down. It made another attempt at a bit of a downtrend, and yet again was stopped at this same level here. So for me, really, dollar yen is for the most part trapped in this zone here. These highs here, these lows here. Yes, it dipped out for a minute up here, but basically for me, while dollar yen is trapped in this range here, I'm not so interested in trading, although I would say that if I were to be a range trader, which I am not, then I would be looking at this level up here, this kind of area which is the top of the range. We've also got some interaction with this level over here as support, more interaction over here as resistance. So it's a pretty good level, and I would potentially be looking for price to move down. Well, either for price to move down from this level, or if it comes back up and maybe gets back above the monthly pivot, maybe it's going to break out to the upside again like it did just over here. But these are the two levels that are my key levels for dollar yen. And until price either breaks convincingly to the upside or convincingly to the downside, I am not able to tell you where dollar yen is headed. Because when I was of the opinion that it was breaking down here, I was pretty much going down to 101 at least. Whereas right now it's still trapped in this zone for me. So I can't tell you where it's going. All I can tell you is if it breaks above this previous high and above the monthly pivot, then I'll be looking for longs. And I suppose I would be looking for longs to around this level in the first instance, because that's my next level of resistance. It's where price hit last time. We've got support over here at that level as well. Probably some more interaction over here. And if it were to break to the downside, then I would be heading to this next horizontal level that we see, and then possibly even down to 101 or further. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't give you more of a decisive direction for today. I just don't see a I don't see a direction for today. For me, it's just still kind of messing around in this range.
I think that's fair enough, Chloe, and I think that really does kind of come back to the point that dollar yen is for for trend purposes, it's just not a great currency pair probably to be looking at right now. I'm just going to grab the screen, Chloe, unless you've got anything else.
No,
so
go for it.
let's just talk about the euro pound. Get your opinion on this as well, Chloe. But the euro pound, somebody just mentioned in the room. Now, the euro pound, it's a really fine balance for me. I would quite like to trade the euro pound short. I don't particularly like the pound. That's my big problem. But if we look at this just on a basic signal, just on a general signal, look at this bar here on the weekly, and it's managed to kind of turn up in a really, really good spot as well. This one here, actual fact, let me change it to an arrow. Look at this bar here. Now that is our engulfing bar. It's a cracker. It's a really, really good engulfing bar. And I like where it's turned up, because what it's done is it's managed to turn up on this level of resistance here. So we've got a price point, we've got a bar. Now this is a weekly bar. So if it's a weekly bar, that's suggesting at some point during the course of this week or next, this is going to weaken. Now, if it takes out the high, all bets are off, and we should be looking, very, very much to the upside, and probably just pile into that if it breaks through the high of that bar. But the likelihood is at this point on a technical level that this is going to fail at this point. So we'd have to mine down, and this is where the technical aspect, is lining up pretty nicely for the pound versus the euro, and we've got some pivots here. Let me just reduce this screen a bit. We got some pivots here. This looks like it's creating a head and shoulders. So this also kind of falls into the assumption that it's going to take a few days of this week to finish up. Now it's going to be somewhere around about here maybe that it needs to fluctuate around before we get a genuine pattern. This is still kind of early. This section here is quite early if we compare the size of the left shoulder. The left shoulder's maybe double the size right now, which means that we're probably looking into Tuesday before we've tested this area enough and fluctuated around this particular range to break down. If we can pick this one up, now I wouldn't be looking long at this point. I'm looking short. I really like the weekly bar. I really like where it's where the price point has come from. So we need the pattern on these shorter term timeframes to really establish themselves before we can take a trade. Now, I really like this. Now, if we get something up here, there's a possibility. Now, that runs beautifully with the weekly pivot. There's a really good confluence of price when we sort of see the top end of the head and shoulders plus the weekly pivot, and it's stepped down as well. Now let's just quickly check a fib, which isn't always necessary, but it's worth doing. Fib is good as well, 38.2% retracement. So we're looking at around about 0.962, 0.9062. So call it 0.960. That would be the circa price point that we're after. So euro pound for a short. For a short, and this would be a watch list idea. So a watch list, because it is just an idea. We'd need to see price action actually behave in these areas to genuinely give us an opportunity. So it's 0.9060. And it's a circa. I mean, I don't know whether it is going to be there. So it's somewhere around that particular price point. If it starts to break too much to the upside, then forget it. But at this particular stage, Sorry, Helen, I'm just reading your euro pound doing good. Euro dollar. You're in this one, are you? You're in this one. The monthly and weekly pivot is rather close. You see it ranging around the area and breakout later. Yeah, I agree with you actually, Lewis. They are close, aren't they? The way the pivots are right now is a bit tricky. The pivots. The way that I see pivots is that it's not that they come too far down the list, but they aren't. They're not that high. If a price is going to break through, it's going to break through regardless of whether a pivot's there or not. So the first thing is, do we get the price point? Now, if this is coming down and we pick it up on the right shoulder, there's two options. Obviously, you pick it up somewhere around about the right shoulder, around about the weekly pivot. You get a stop in place that is far enough away so you can take profit at this particular price point, which is also a fib, which is there's there is a likelihood that we do get something which just messes about in these areas, and then maybe breaks out. But the next option you've got is just wait for it to take the monthly pivot out. It'll be close enough to the right shoulder to still take some profit down at this particular area, and then see if it goes through, and then you can maybe add later on. So yeah, I think you're right, Lewis, and we do have to have an element of caution if we're trading this. We get our entry up here. Don't discard the monthly pivot. It could go through, and I think my my particular approach would be see if we get some sort of entry up here, trade it down to the monthly pivot, take some profit here, and then if it goes through, try and add if it comes back up again. That would be the ideal scenario. And then if it breaks through, try and add again. That would be dreamland scenario. It's unlikely to give us exactly what we need, but that would be a fantastic way to trade it. It'd be a really, really good picture to see if that was to happen. But I don't know. But the key really is that we try and enter here. We try and enter on that 0.9060 and see what the market gives us and what's on offer, because you will need a catalyst to get that down. Catalyst might not be there. Bounce on the monthly pivot, and then you've just done your money because you haven't taken profit in the right area. So yes, you're right. Take some caution. Well done, Helen. That's fantastic that you got that on. The 4 hourly wave rider. I don't know the 4 hourly wave rider. That's probably Chloe would be better equipped to tell you about that. Now stops. Now the stops. Now let's talk about stops. Let's say you have stops and stop hunting. Is it a thing? Maybe it's it. Maybe it is. I don't really know. I guess it probably is, but in some regards, I don't think it really matters whether it's a thing or not. I think if you've got a decent foundation for your trade idea, then you're going to make money whether there's stop hunting or not. But what I like to do with anything is, let's say we get a bar to enter on. Then I would want to know that this is the point that I would want to come out at. Now, you can only do this if you've got the ability to watch trades. You can't do it if you've got to step out for the day. So if my entry bar is here, the way that I can get rid of stop hunting, because what I hate happening is that take out your stop, it's come back into your price point, and then it can go down again. It really bugs me. But the answer to get around it is to manage your stop and make your stop a soft area with a hard area slightly higher. So let's say we are going to enter the market at 0.5% risk here. And this is going to cost 1% if it's going to come from this point to this point. There's your 1% risk from these two price points. I want to get out here, but I'm not naive enough to think that I've got the exact right point for a stop. I'm clever enough to know that if it starts to get above this level, then I'm probably wrong. But I'm not naive enough to think that I've probably got exactly the right pip for a stop. So what I will do is put a stop area much higher as an emergency. just in case it just goes and then I'm in big trouble. So I need the stop in place. I need an emergency stop in place. So that's got to come into play. But I won't put a hard stop here. I'll put my hard stop here, and then I'll wait and see if price closes above this level. And when it closes above this level, my directional bias is confirmed to be wrong. Then I'll close the trade, and I should get near the 0.5% risk on most occasions. Most occasions. Sometimes I'll lose 1, sometimes I'll lose 3/4. Most occasions I'll lose half. And what that means is where you are losing the odd 1% every blue, once in a blue moon, or the odd 0.75% once every now and again, you're not losing these little trades all the time that just come up and take you out and then go in your direction. So move your hard stop to the next price point up, but know that if it closes above your soft stop level, you're going to close the trade. Now, you've got to be disciplined for that. Opinion. What's your opinion? In fact, we're gonna pretty much wrap up here anyway. But have you got any opinion on Euro Pound, Chloe? Have you not really looked at that one? Now, incidentally, I reiterate, you can only do what I've suggested with stops if you are in front of your computer. If you've got to step away, you've got to put your hard stop in the original suggested place. You got to. Haven't got a choice.
Let me have a look at Euro Pound. I actually do have an opinion on Euro Pound, Ash, and my opinion and what I can do about it are two different things. So yeah, looking at the weekly time frame, that is, it definitely looks bearish based on that weekly bar. However, what I look at generally for my trading, bearing in mind that I trade on the daily and downwards and sometimes down to the 15-minute time frame, I'm looking at the daily trend, and the daily trend is still up. However, the problem for me is the pivots. There isn't any clear air for me to trade because there are so many pivots there. At the moment, we're trapped between the monthly and the weekly pivot, so no opportunity for me to trade long. And just above that weekly pivot is a pretty strong horizontal level of resistance. So even if price were to get above the weekly pivot, I still wouldn't be able to trade long. So even though I see that the trend on the daily is up, I can't trade long on it unless it goes up to such a point as it invalidates that head and shoulders that you're looking at, Ash. So so basically my opinion is exactly the same as yours. I see the head and shoulders pattern on that 4-hourly. The only way I could trade long would be if that head and shoulders pattern either didn't form or if it broke up in the wrong direction rather than forming a reversal pattern and moving down. So at the moment, I'm a bit stuck on Euro GBP. It's not something that's particularly high up my watch list to trade.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp that the picture needs to unfold a bit more. I have got it. I am looking at it. But I'd like it to unfold a bit more. All right, Chloe. I think we should wrap up. I think I'm hoping for an opportunity in the US show later on. I don't know what your schedule's like this week, Chloe, but thoroughly enjoyed having you in.
Terribly busy, Ash. Terribly busy.
Well, if you're around, then it'd be fantastic to come in. Maybe I'll find my phone in a minute and I'll send you a message and
yeah, do.
Yeah, we'll work something out. But thanks so much for coming in and
no worries. It's been fun
being in the room. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up, and thanks so much for all your participation and your comments. I hope you've enjoyed it today, and we will be back certainly tomorrow, and I'll be back in the US show later. I'm not sure who's joining me later on, but I'll be back in the US show for those of you that are part of that as well, and we will see if we can get a trade on and look at these ISM numbers. Thanks again to you, Chloe, as well. But we will be back, same trade time, same trade channel at 5 to 8. Chloe doesn't know the drill. So I will do it. Don't be late.
Cheers, guys. See you later.